Are you looking for a new whiskey adventure? Then climb in and buckle up. Get ready for one hell of a ride on the Whiskey Trip podcast with your host, Big Chief. Join in as he and his guests explore whiskey and dive into whiskey stories from around the world. Now here's your host, Big Chief.
Folks, you know, here on the Whiskey Trip, we celebrate more than just the pour in our glass. We celebrate heritage, tradition, and the stories that make this country what it is. That's why I'm proud to tell you about our friends at the Heritage Flag Company. These aren't just flags, they're handcrafted works of art built from whiskey and bourbon barrels that once held the spirit we all love. Every cut, every nail, every burn mark tells a story of patience and craftsmanship. Just like the whiskey we sip, these flags are bold, timeless, and full of character. Whether you hang one in your home bar, your man cave, or gift it to a veteran or first responder, a heritage flag isn't just decor. It's a statement. It says you believe in freedom, tradition, and the legacy we pass down. So saddle up, whiskey family, and head over to theheritageflag.com. Use code WhiskeyTrip10 at checkout for 10% off your order. Let them know Big Chief sent you. Because just like your favorite pour, the Heritage Flag Company is made to be shared, honored, and remembered. Now let's get on to the show. Hey, it's old Big Chief from the Whiskey Trip, and yeah, you're taking another ride with me, baby. And boy, do I got an episode for you this week. I've been trying for almost 7 years to do this episode, and these are people that I wanted to talk about. You can have all the great corn you want. You can have all the great rye or all the great wheat, and you can have great limestone water. But without a still, you ain't making no damn good whiskey. So I got the company that makes the whiskey stills for America and around the world. Their stills are coveted. I've been into many distilleries and seen these, and I'm talking about Vendome Copper and Brass Works. They're in Louisville, Kentucky. And the way I got kind of connected to Vendome was I have a friend, her name's Gina, and she's a Marine, and I had her on my old podcast on a Veterans Day episode by chance. And, we asked her where she worked at, and she was like, I purchased all the copper for stills. And I was like, Vendome? And she was like, yes. And so I've been trying for 7 years to get one of their owners on, and I got Mr. Mike Sherman from Vendome Copper and Brass Works on. Mike, welcome to the Whiskey Trip, my friend.
Well, I appreciate you having me, and sorry it took so long for you to get us on here.
Well, good things are worth waiting for, that's for sure.
There you go.
Now, you and Gina, since then, I don't think back in the day you guys weren't dating.
No, she actually worked for us, and then but since then we started dating, and so we've been together for a little over 3 years now, and enjoying life, and do a lot of traveling together, and just having a good time.
Yeah, I always see your guys' Facebook post. I'm friends with both of you guys on there, and I enjoy seeing people enjoy life. I know you guys were doing some pool work this year, get some stuff around your pool, and I'm an avid pool guy. I love getting in the pool, and that's just kind of where I can let loose and not think about the day's work.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, let's drink a little whiskey together, and let's talk about Vendome. What are you sipping on tonight?
Well, right now I don't have anything in front of me, but I will probably go home tonight. Tonight I'll probably maybe have a little Maker's Mark, maybe a little Woodford Double Oak. Just depends. I'm kind of depends on what the event is or the mood is. Depends on what I drink. I wouldn't say I have a favorite. I definitely am I think I'm more of a weeded bourbon person. I like that little smoother taste. I'm not a real high proof type person or anything like that. So we'll see. We'll figure it out when I get home later.
Well, listeners, you want to pay attention to what I'm sipping on tonight. Now, I'm picked 4 different whiskeys, and all of 4 of these whiskeys came out of a Vendome still, or they were made on a still that were worked on by Vendome. And the first whiskey I'm going to be sipping on, and you want to pay attention to this, I'm telling you, is a store pick of Weller Full Proof, and I got just a little bit of this left. And I said, well, you know what? I might as well drink this tonight with Mike. But that's what I'm sipping on tonight. I got a little bit of whiskey in my big old giant rocks glass there. I know it looks little in my hand, but it is a big rocks glass. So, yeah, what a great whiskey to start this episode with. So you guys were founded in 1903 by your great-grandfather. Is that correct?
Correct. He worked for a coppersmith company that was based out of Cincinnati that had a division in Louisville. And for whatever reason, they decided they were going to close that division. You know, who knows how it transpired, if he bought the division from them or if he just went next door and opened up his own, you know, coppersmith company. But we do know around 1903, 1904, Vendome started to show up in some trade magazines and things like that. And, you know, it just kind of took off, and he was doing exactly. I mean, we were founded on the whiskey industry. That's what we were doing, and making parts for stills and things like that. A little different back then. You know, there were the stills they had parts made and put in. They were actually put in stores. I mean, you could go into a general store and buy like a vapor head for a still and things like that. But we did make, you know, we have my great grandfather's ledgers that have all of his hand drawings and how he figured up the job, and of all, just from distilleries back from the early 1900s to the present day now. I mean, it's a hell of a list.
Do you know what the first like still that he put in, like in a distillery?
You know, I should probably know the answer to that, but I have it here on my computer because my dad one day went through and took all those ledgers and went page by page and did a Excel spreadsheet of every one of those entries, and you know, now you can sort it, you know, by years or by alphabetically or by location or whatever. So it's pretty cool.
Wow. I mean, I'd love to like thumb through that stuff and check it out. Oh yeah.
Well, when you get up here next time, I mean, we'll pull those ledgers out and I'll show you. It's pretty neat. It's just really cool to go back and, you know, 115, 120 some odd years ago and to look at stuff like that. It's neat.
Wow. I mean, I just can't. I can't fathom back in the day. Now, on your guys' website, there's a photo of these guys standing around a still, and it's a submarine still, and you don't see those submarine stills anymore. There's several different varieties of stills that people just don't use anymore. You know, I think traditionally today, there's typically only two types of stills. There's a pot still, and there's a column still. Do you guys still make any old stills like that for people?
No, I mean, like I would say, you know, all of them are either going to be a pot still of various sizes or a continuous still. There's some, we've done a few 3-chamber stills over the last few years. Leopold out in Colorado, Todd Leopold, I don't know if you've ever met him or had his product, but he bought one from us and got a lot of interest from people, and then we did a few more for years down the road for a couple people. So, but typically column stills and on the whiskey side, column stills and pot stills. Now rum, I've got a big old 12-foot diameter Jamaican rum still being fabricated over in my shop right now with the for making heavy rum. So you got the retorts and the big vapor lines that go from the pot to the retorts and then to the condenser. So it's a little bit of a different breed, but for whiskey, yeah, typically just those two types.
It amazes me that, you know, we're stuck with that long, but then you made that it's a 3-chamber pot, or not pot still, it's a column still, right, that you made for Leopold Brothers. And yeah. I've had whiskey from them, and it is even at low proof, when I say low proof, people, I mean 90 proof is low proof to me. But at 90 proof, you would be surprised at the viscosity of this whiskey. It is just so oily and it has so many textures to it, and he attributes that to that steel itself.
Exactly.
And that process.
Exactly. Yep.
Did you guys make that? How did you come up with the design and stuff? Did you go back to pre-prohibition steels and look at it, or?
Yeah, so we fortunately we have a lot of data and books from a long time ago, and just researched, and of course Todd had researched as well, and between the two of us, we kind of figured out how those things were made and how they worked, and of course, my father and uncle are a great source of knowledge as well. So we were able to piece it together and figure out exactly how it ran and everything, and then made it and sent it out there, and he ran it and loved it, and it's been doing well ever since.
Now, does a steel just last forever? I mean, can it just keep going, or do you have to replace it?
Yeah, I guess the lucky thing for us is that copper does not last forever. So I always tell people there's two great things about copper in the bourbon and the whiskey industry. One is you got to have it somewhere in your process. Copper actually has a reaction with the distillate that keeps sulfurs and sulfides and odors behind in the still that you don't want coming over into your product. So copper is a very important part of the process, so that's good for us because there's only a handful of shops probably in the United States who really does what I consider industrial fabrication of copper. And then the second thing is copper does not last forever. It wears out. So every time those sulfurs and sulfides and everything, they attach to the copper, and then you have to do either a citric acid or a caustic rinse on the still to kind of wash out all that. And every time you do one of those cleaning, it's taking a little bit of that copper with it. So over a period of 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, depending on how much a distillery, how hard they run, how much they clean. There's a lot of variables that go into it, but depending on those variables, that still is eventually going to wear out and need to be replaced.
Now, do you have some old steel still out there that you know that are still running, like from pre-prohibition that you have found, or somebody's that decommissioned and they brought it back?
So on our porch on the side of our office, we have a pre-prohibition doubler that was originally fabricated for Dowling Distillery. When Prohibition came about, they dismantled that distillery and took it down to Juarez, Mexico, where they made whiskey all during Prohibition and even after Prohibition. Sometime in the late 80s, 90s, the equipment hadn't been running for a while, but my father and uncle knew the people who ran the distillery down there, knew the owners, had formed a relationship with them, and they called and said, hey, we're going to scrap out all this old copper equipment. Is there anything that you might want? And luckily, my dad was able to get that doubler, that copper doubler back here, and it's on display on our porch outside of our office.
Well, that'd be pretty neat if you could try to use it to see if it would still produce
Probably
something.
a lot of the problem is back then there was those joints and everything were formed and by soldering, and back then there was a lot of lead.
Oh, I never thought about that.
Yeah, so probably not a good idea to use that right now with the lead content in those solder joints and everything. So we get a lot of people who find old stills and stuff and are like, hey, can we use this? And or they might say, it's leaking, can we fix it? And the problem is once you start putting heat to those joints, that solder and that all that wants to just come out of those joints, and it's real hard to fix and everything. So we have worked on a lot of old stills that people find, however they find them and stuff. And some of them we can salvage, and some of them just aren't salvageable.
Well, you guys do all kinds of crazy, just crazy stills. In the second half, we're going to talk about that. But we started talking about Prohibition there. How did Prohibition affect Vendome in the copper business?
Yeah, so, naturally, there was a few distilleries that were open for medicinal purposes during Prohibition and everything. And we naturally, we were able to do work for them. There was a distillery down in western part of Kentucky that was they dismantled that distillery, and we actually took it up and helped put it back together up in Canada, where they were able to make whiskey during Prohibition. My great grandfather, he also did other things. He worked with boilers, pumps. He was pretty much doing anything he could just to be able to keep the doors open and keep food on the table until Prohibition was over with. But it was a scary time, and I'm sure it was probably, miraculously somehow got through it and everything. But then, after it was just crazy. There was just so much work. I mean, everyone wanted to get right back in it. People needed equipment. People needed, to get back up and running. So it was a very busy time, right after Prohibition.
I just can't imagine right after Prohibition, the doors were probably just being beat down by people. And like you said, they're trying to get started back up and stuff. But I can't imagine that it was as busy as it was right after the bourbon boom started. I'm sure. I mean, did you guys go through a period in the 60s and 70s where there was a downturn again?
Yeah. So, the same kind of in the 60s, they were making so much whiskey and putting so much away that they, and then there was definitely a downturn. Whiskey and bourbon wasn't a very exciting drink. Vodka had been introduced. Everyone kind of was moving towards different types of spirits and stuff like that. So we had to branch out. I mean, we always did brewery work as well, but then in the 60s and 70s, we had to branch out, and we started doing chemical work, confectionery, pharmaceutical, anything that we could get our hands on to keep the doors open and everything. So there were some lean times. One thing we've learned in the fabrication industry, there's ups and downs, there's peaks and valleys, and there's been times, even when early 90s when I was here starting off, I mean, there was times when we only had maybe a handful of guys in the shop, waiting for our next job to break so we can hire a few more back. So,
wow. I mean, it's amazing to me. You guys been running for 120 years, a little bit more than 120 years.
Yeah.
And you haven't failed. A fail-proof business, because you do a little bit of everything. Listeners, you saw me pour or people that are viewing this, you saw me pour another whiskey. I poured a ASW Fiddler, Georgia Heartwood, very beautiful whiskey. And this is made from your guys' pot stills. So I went from a column still whiskey, which is a wheated bourbon. And I believe this is a wheated bourbon as well. I'd have to look back and stuff, but a very beautiful whiskey. And what they do is they take and make it, and then they take and this is really a double oaked. They put it Georgia Heartwood in there, which is oak and oak staves and from Georgia, and age it even a little bit more. So I really dig this whiskey, and their pot stills they're a double set, so they're awful beautiful.
Yeah, a lot of people, with pot stills, you can kind of get, natural. Even with a continuous still, a bourbon's distilled at least, is 2 times. On a continuous still, it's run through the continuous column. The beer still is what they call it. Comes off around 120 proof. then gets condensed, and then goes into what they call a doubler, which is nothing but a large copper pot, which then gets redistilled, vaporized, and then condensed again, and then that will become your product, depending on what you cut it down to before you put it in the barrel. And same thing with pot stills. Pot stills usually doing it twice as well. They do it a first time, and then if they only have a single pot still, they might run the pot still a few times to collect enough, and then they'll kind of put all that back in there and run it a second time for their second distillation. Or for that example that you just talked about with the double pot still, they're running one as their wash still, and then the other one as their spirit still, to make their whiskey.
They're one of two distilleries that have their pot stills like that up on a big old platform. They kind of set up and they're not on the facility floor, right? And Chattanooga would be the other one. I don't think those stills are your guys' stills, but I just love to see a big old piece of copper sitting up there. It is amazing. And sometimes people are like, have you ever seen a still before? Yeah, I've seen a couple hundred of them operate. And I've seen some old stills, and I've seen the brand new ones that you guys put out. Every time I am just amazed. What is the largest still to date that you guys have made for a distillery?
For whiskey production, 84 inches, 7 foot diameter, and that's at Buffalo Trace.
God almighty, that's a big old still right there.
Yeah. I'm not sure their exact feed rate, but if I had to guess, it was probably 300 or so gallons per minute of mash going into that thing. I know we got some, So just imagine. So when you go and see a little pot still, that might be a 250 gallon or a 500 gallon. Buffalo Trace is feeding in 300 gallons a minute.
A minute. That is nuts.
So yeah, it's mind-boggling when you start putting up, getting a piece of paper and a pencil and start putting, 60 minutes an hour, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You're like, holy crap! They're making a lot of whiskey.
Now I could be wrong, but did you guys not just finish up and install, and they started running whiskey this year from it, Potter Jane's stills?
Yes.
My good friends Denny Potter and Jane Bowie up there. They used to.
Oh my God, they're two of the best. Two of the best. Love them, and so glad we were able to. I worked with both of them down. Well, I've worked with Denny at many places. Because he was at Makers, and then he went down to Cruise and Rum, and then he came back and he was at Heaven Hill, and then he went back to Makers, and now he's doing his own thing. And Jane, I've known from being down at Makers, and when they first started talking to us about doing their own thing and going out on their own, I was like, I couldn't imagine two more knowledgeable people to do this, and I was so excited for them. Yeah, they're great people.
And what size of still do they put up?
They have a 3 foot, 36 inch.
So a little under half of what Buffalo Trace, but they are pumping out some whiskey out of that joker for sure.
Yeah. So they did something a little creative on their. So there's the second distillation. You heard me use the word doubler earlier. So a doubler on the process side is when you condense the vapor out the beer still and you feed it to the doubler as a liquid, it's called a doubler. If you don't condense the vapor off of the beer still and you vapor feed into that copper pot, it's called a thumper. So we kind of got creative. Denny and Jane both wanted to be able to run this, what we call a thumbler or a dumper, depending on how you put the words together. So they actually have the ability to do both, to run that as a doubler and as a thumper. And they can bypass the first condenser, the low wine condenser, and vapor feed into that. So they were very creative and on their process side, and they say they can tell a difference between the product depending on how they run it. So I got to get down there and try them both. I haven't been able to get down there.
Wow. I mean, we saw that they were filling some barrels and letting people taste a little bit, and it's definitely not finished yet. But my wife's like, "You see this?" and she gets all jealous and stuff, and I'm like, "We'll get up there." And like you said, two great people in this industry.
Absolutely.
I just know that they're doing it right and stuff. I also noticed that you guys, did you have any hand in helping George Washington's new distillery that was reconstructed, I guess, at Mount Vernon, or just down the road from Mount Vernon? Did you guys work on their stuff at all?
We do. I would say personally that was probably one of the funnest projects that I was ever involved with. Long story, I'll try to keep it short, but originally we saw a little blurb in the Courier Journal here in Louisville that Brown Forman was going to be working with Mount Vernon up there to make some whiskey at the grist mill that George Washington had owned. And I was like, we got to be involved with this somehow. Like, this is awesome. And so we started making some phone calls and got in touch with people. And so they had us up. Me and my cousin Rob went up to D.C. and one of the and it wasn't the Smithsonian, but it was one of the museums. They had an old pot still in storage that they knew was from the late 1700s. They didn't know if it was George Washington's, probably wasn't, but they knew it was a similar style that he probably used. So they asked us to replicate it. So we took millions of pictures and dimensions and everything, and we came back and we actually duplicated this pot still that they would use every fall behind the grist mill with all the master distillers of the distilleries who were involved with Discus, the Distilled Spirits Council, and they invited us. And we were up there every fall running this little 25-gallon pot still with all the master distillers, and it was one of my favorite events every year. It was just a great event. Fast forward a few years later, they decided that they were going to redo, they were doing the dig and everything, and of course it takes a little longer to do all that stuff up there where they got so much history. But we did. They'd come up with the fact that George Washington had 5 copper pot stills. They knew from recipes and stuff the gallons that they were. They kind of could tell by the dig the diameters of them. And so we replicated 5 pot stills for them, and they're up there, and they run them, and we go up. I go up probably every year or year and a half and take some thickness testings to make sure that they're still in good shape, and we just kind of take care of them and make sure everything's good to go. So yeah, that's one of my favorite.
I would say that's another set of steals, and not a whole lot of people get to go in there and do a podcast episode or do media in there. And I was blessed to get invited to go there and do an episode and just to see the whole thing and get explained how everything happens there. Because I'd heard other distillers and people throughout the industry going, "Oh, we're going to go up there and do this, or we're going to do that there and make whiskey." And most of it's done by hand. I think people would be shocked. I just love the place. It resonates. Cool. Old school is as old school as you can get. That our first president was making whiskey and then selling it right down the road. Really, what we would call white dog.
Did you do that interview with Steve?
I did.
Bayshore, yeah. Great guy, another great guy.
Oh yeah, I mean this industry, Mike, is hands down. To me, I call it a community or a family. It really is, and I feel blessed to being invited into it and get to do the things I do is just amazing. And how great people are and the way we think. We don't let anything else get in our way. And the only thing we might argue on is what type of whiskey we love. That's it.
And the great thing about it is, I think everyone appreciates everybody's product, but because we all have different palates and different tastes and different ways we enjoy our whiskey, there's just so much out there to enjoy. And I think everyone respects everybody's thing. It may not be their cup of tea, but they don't disrespect the fact that, it's done the right way and it's a good product and everything. So, that's why people are always like, what's the best whiskey? I was like, shit, no one knows that, I mean, like, just depends on what you like. What's your palate like? I'm a weeded bourbon person, so
Yeah.
I enjoy that weeded bourbon, like the Wellers and the Makers and stuff like that. So, and it doesn't mean I'm right or wrong, but that's just what I like.
Well, that's what, hey, drink it how you like to drink it, and drink the whiskey that you enjoy the most, not what other people tell you is the best. I say this Georgia Heartwood from ASW, the Fiddler, is right up my alley. It's an awful, beautiful whiskey. Well, we're right up against the first half, and we come back on the second half, listeners. I'm going to kind of dig into this, the generations of family members that have worked at Vendome. And then, we'll dig a little bit more and see what they're doing in modern day with the craft industry, with the rise of the craft industry. And then we'll see what else they got up their sleeve. You never can tell what's been going to give away on this podcast. So you stick with us, and we'll be right back. Leapers Fork Distillery is an artisan distillery working to bring back the history and heritage of a small batch whiskey production to Williamson County. The distillery crafts premium spirits using local ingredients and limestone filtered water to create superior spirits with a signature taste. Yeah, I love their weeded bourbon. Leapers Fork Distillery is characterized primarily as a low-volume, low-impact concept of production. They are excited and honored about bringing back a lost art and industry to a county that always puts its history and heritage at the forefront. Visit them today at leapersforkdistillery.com. All right, listeners, we're back for the second half with Mike Sherman from Vendome Copper and Brass Works. Now, Mike, I sipped the last of that Fiddler, and it was amazing from ASW. If you ever get a chance to go down there and see their distillery right in the heart of Atlanta, I love something like that. They always say they rose from the ashes because Atlanta had burnt down. Sherman had burned it to the ground, but what a great whiskey. Now, I filled my glass up, and lo and behold, I don't know what's happening tonight. It's another weeded bourbon. Surprise, surprise. But I got some Chattanooga whiskey right here for you.
Yep.
Now, have you had some Chat whiskey before?
Yes. Now that I've definitely had. Absolutely.
This is a single barrel. I think somebody sent this to me. When you're a whiskey guy, sometimes whiskey just shows up magically.
That's not a bad thing. I tell you, man. I wish that we would have a few more of that show up.
I'm sure you could if you said, "Hey, listen, I'm gonna build you a still, but I need a delivery."
Yeah, right.
Well, as I'm sipping on this, tell me, your family's from 1903 to modern day has been doing this, been building these stills out of copper and brass. How many generations are you guys at right now?
So, me and my sister and three cousins were fourth generation. We have had a few of the fifth generations working here during some summers, part-time while they're in college. A couple of them go to University of Louisville here, so they might come down during the week and do a little work too. So there's definitely a little bit of interest there in the fifth generation. And, we all have the same philosophy. Our fathers didn't push us into the company. We're not going to push our kids into the company. It's here if they want it, if they want to enjoy what I feel like is one of the best industries to work in and with the whiskey and bourbon industry. And the other industries are good as well that we work with. So we'll just see where that leads to. But we've been very fortunate to be able to make a nice living and to meet so many great people while we're doing this.
I love that. I mean, that's the right concept, I think, of, if you try to push your kids into something that you're doing, they probably ain't going to enjoy it. Very few do, I think. But if you let them decide and they kind of migrate back to it, that's beauty in itself, that they
Right.
came back and thought, man, you know what? I think I could. My dad or my mom enjoy doing that. Maybe I'll enjoy doing it.
Right. Right.
I think in the whiskey industry, you do see that a lot. You look at Freddie Noe, and he's working at Jim Beam, and that family's they're the Beam family, really. But look at the Russells over at
Wild Turkey.
Wild Turkey.
Yep.
That's proof in the pudding that if you just let them be free for a little bit, then they'll migrate back to you, and you can put them to work.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. My dad never pushed me to come here, and actually the day after I graduated from college, I really didn't have anything lined up, and he was like, well, come down to Vendome and work in the shop while you're trying to figure out what you want to do. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. So I showed up literally the day after I graduated, which is Sunday, and Monday I showed up and I was like, all right, I'm here. What do you got? He's like, well, go down to the machine shop. I think they got something for you to do. And we were building these big reboilers for Midwest Grains out in Illinois. And they were 2-inch thick stainless steel tube sheets. And I don't know how many 2-inch holes they had in them, but it seemed like a million. And I was sitting on this big drill press all summer long, drilling 2-inch holes through this stainless steel tube sheets, because I think there was 2 or 3 reboilers. So there's 6 tube sheets, and I just sat there all summer drilling, thinking, what in the world am I doing? But I enjoyed working in the shop. My cousin Rob, he started in the shop. We both welded. He actually got welded copper. I never got to that point of welding copper, but he welded copper, and he traveled to the Anheuser-Busch plants and that we were working in and putting in copper coils in their cookers and stuff. And I was doing more local distillery work and going out in the field and doing the installs and work out in the field. And there's nothing better than doing it that way, because now I got an appreciation of what these guys do every day over in our shop. And these guys they're great workers. They're very talented. The guys if you ever get an opportunity to watch somebody weld copper, put a hood on and sit there and actually watch that copper melt as they're putting filler metal into it. It's amazing. So when you come to Kentucky, I'll hook you up with that. You gotta do that. So, but it gives you an appreciation of what these guys do in our shop, and they're very talented. We got a great workforce, and they'll pick up on a minute's notice and travel for us. Anheuser-Busch called right now on that phone, which I'm always thinking they're going to. And they say they need someone there tomorrow. I know I can get someone there tomorrow, because I got guys that will do that. They'll drive all night to get there. That's
a building a family right there. That's somebody that says, hey, I believe in my company. And how could you not believe in your company? Over 120 years of a family-run business. That's almost unheard of today. And a lot of that is in the whiskey industry, but I think it's just, especially in a metal trades business, I love it. And then to know that you and your cousin, that you guys started from the bottom and you worked your way up and earned the company. Nobody just gave it to you. It sounds like your dad and they made you earn it.
Oh yeah, definitely. There's long 12-hour days. If we were working the day after Thanksgiving, we were here. He was like, you're not getting a day off. They're working in the shop. We got a big job to get out. You need to get there. I ran night shift. I worked night shift. I went back and got my mechanical engineering degree after I decided I was going to stay here and work at Vendome. So I was putting that part-time together during the day, and then was working night shift down here because we had a few big jobs going on that had to be out. And so, I don't want to say it was tough, but it makes you appreciate it. And I appreciate both my father and my uncle for doing it that way, for sure.
So at the height of like the bourbon boom, how much copper are you guys going through, like a month or a year? Do you know?
You know, I would say we were buying probably a couple 100,000 pounds of copper a year, sheets in plate and sheet form. You know, I mean, it was, and most of our copper comes from overseas. Domestically in the United States, you can only get 36-inch wide sheets. That's the largest you can get. And our equipment requires just larger sheets, 48, 60, you know, even up to 72-inch wide copper sheets. So we have to go overseas to get that. We work directly with a mill overseas, and but it takes anywhere from 20 to 24 weeks to get it. So, you know, we are trying to project out what we're going to be doing, you know, next summer for shutdowns. So we always talk to all the big distilleries. What do you got on the works for next year? You know, any major copper work, replacing trays in a column, replacing a column, you know, whatever. So we can make sure we have plenty of copper on order that's coming in, so we can make sure we can take care of them. So I would say we probably have a few 100,000 pounds of copper in inventory right now. It would be hard to tell somebody like Jack Daniels that we don't have enough copper to do something for them if they called in an emergency. So we always want to make sure we have a good inventory so we can take care of whoever it might be.
Well, I mean, it must be amazing whenever somebody calls you and says, "Hey, we need you on site like right now. We need you to fix this or fix that." So, do you know the number of stills that you have out there working right now that are making a whiskey?
You know, I would say, so my cousin and I have talked about this numerous times, and I would say we probably have over 1,000 parts of 1,000 or more stills out there. Maybe not complete units. Maybe someone had a distillery and needed a condenser, or, you know, needed us to refurbish it and we put new trays in it. But I would say I know we ran some numbers during the height of you know, between 2006, 2005, 6, 7, right in there, up until about 2 years ago. There was just nothing. I mean, like 80% of our work was distilleries. I mean, it was just one after another, whether it be a pot still or a continuous still, or people just, I mean, during the 2012, 13, 14, 15, people were just sending checks in just to get in line. We had a 2-year wait on getting pot stills and distillery equipment out, and all they wanted to do was get money in here so they could get in line for the next, so they would have a spot. So it got really crazy. I would say we did 700-800 new distilleries in that time frame over that 15 years or so. You know, and we were cranking them out.
Wow. I mean, I can't even imagine how much, you know, you're going through. Have tariffs, have they affected you guys on how you buy copper today?
So, you know, that kind of hit towards the end of the summer and everything. We are, again, luckily we have a really, really good inventory of copper that we've been kind of relying on for right now, kind of playing that wait and see how long is the tariffs going to hold on to, and all that stuff. So we've had a few jobs it's affected. We've had to pass the cost on to, you know, we've kept in good communication with our customers, and they understand and they know, and so yes, in short, yes, it has affected some things, but we're trying to ease the pain of it by using some of our inventory that we have, that we can possibly keep the prices low.
Well, I love to hear that you're trying to work with people and make sure that you do try to keep it relatively, you know, easy. I know a still doesn't, you know, like what's a 1,000 gallon pot still cost? It doesn't cost $1,000, that's for sure.
No, I would say it's probably in the $300,000 to $400,000 range by the time you put the pot still with a condenser and and then if you're going to put some trays with it or a side column, I mean it can get pretty pricey. I mean I would say you could spend for a small system that has the pot and a condenser and everything you would need to make a whiskey, you could spend $50,000, or you could be well into $1 million into some bigger systems and stuff like that.
Wow. And what about like all the mechanicals of a still? A lot of distilleries are not a lot, but some distilleries they're more, I had lived down here on the Gulf Coast, and there's refineries everywhere. There's chemical plants everywhere, and everything is computerized. Have you started doing some of that stuff too?
Yeah. So we're able to do a wide variety of controls on a still. It could be pretty simple, just controlling the amount of steam based on the output temperature off the still, or it can be a complete. Everything's got some type of control on it, from temperatures to pressures to I mean it can get pretty elaborate. So we work with a gentleman that lives down in Florida. Actually, he does a lot of our controls for us, and he goes to all of our trade shows with us and everything. And he's got a great understanding of how the stills work and the process works, and he works directly with our customers. And I mean, most of them. I mean, if they call him in the middle of the night, he can pull up their process right there on his computer once they let him into it, and he can figure it out or take care of them right there. So it is pretty incredible on the control side nowadays.
Wow.
So yeah, it used to be, you had to go out and, you would talk to the old master distillers and operators, and they'd be like, we gotta have the steam valve, and it's got to be turned to where this is looking at, at 2:00, and that's where we know the sweet spot is. And now it's, no one goes out and turns a valve.
Well, I mean, I see a lot of that in real big facilities. Some of the distillers would probably blow their mind at how big some of the facilities are here. Like here in Port Arthur, Texas, is America's largest refinery, Motiva, and it is. I think you might be able to put every distillery in America together, and it still is not as big as that place. It's monstrous.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I just poured another bottle of whiskey. I poured the Crittenden's Cut Above.
Crittenden, all right.
Yeah, I mean, I love this guy right here. I went over to his distillery and did a show with him and his dad. And as soon as we walked back there, I was like, "Yeah, that's a Vendome still right there." And I believe his is stainless steel though.
We do have some stainless steel equipment out there. Like I said, you have to have. There's some large distilleries that have stainless steel stills, but you got to have copper somewhere. They may have a vessel that has a lot of loose copper in it that all the vapor goes through to get that reaction.
I think he has copper plates too, yeah.
Yeah. The vapor lines, the condenser might be copper, but the pot itself is stainless steel. We've done a lot of those. So also one of the other things that kind of wears a still out, or especially a pot still, is that the grain is, it's coarse. It's like sandpaper. So when it's being agitated and everything and being swooshed around in that still, I mean, it's going up against the sides of the still and everything, and it's also wearing on that. If it's copper, it's going to wear that copper out. So some people put stainless steel in that area, and then once it starts vaporizing, everything from there on out is copper.
That's copper.
Yeah. So we've done every type of combination stainless steel copper, from all copper to, a lot of stainless with just some copper in it. It's amazing how many different combinations we've done.
Now, as we get deeper into the 21st century here, oh man, we're really
25.
We're a quarter of the way there.
Right?
Yeah. God almighty. I didn't even think about it that way. Us guys that were born in the early 70s, hey, it's sneaking up on us. But as we get here deeper into the 21st century, do you diversify as the, I don't know if the bourbon boom is bust. I think it bust for the big boys out there, but I think craft distillers are still churning out juice like nobody's business. But as it slows down, as the market slows down, how do you guys diversify and make sure that you get to operate another 120 years?
Yeah, so like I said before, like back in the 60s and 70s when bourbon wasn't booming or really doing very well at all, we branched out into some other industries and stuff. Now, over the last 20 years, we really haven't had to depend on those industries because of the bourbon boom. And all the new craft distilleries. However, we do have relationships with them, and it's just a matter of getting back out in front of them and knocking on their doors. We do a lot of stainless steel work. We probably do more. I know we do. We do more stainless steel work than we do copper work, because you got to think in a distillery, while the distillation equipment is copper, the cookers, the fermenters, all the cistern tanks and alcohol tanks and all that, they're all stainless steel. So we make all of those as well. So we do a lot in stainless steel. We do some other high nickel alloys, some hashed alloys, some Inconels. We're an ASME code stamp shop, so we can do high pressure vessels and stuff like that. So getting into the chemical industry with that on our resume as well is good. So we can drum up work that way too. So while the bourbon industry is definitely slowing down a little bit, we're branching out and getting back out in front of the other industries that we're used to working with, and hopefully they'll have work for us and we can keep going.
I mean, you come down here.
We put it out 700, 600, 800, however many sets of stills out there, and they started being put out there 15, 20 years ago. So those things it's just a matter of time before those are going to start needing some repair and work and replacement and things like that. So I think in the next 5 years, that will be a large part of our business right there, because all those distilleries are going to come back around needing new equipment. So
the whole time you're talking here and you're talking about the grain being sandpaper, I'm sitting here wondering how much copper is in my whiskey.
Copper's good for you.
I'm gonna have to. It's gonna make me turn green. Or is that brass? They both turn green.
They both do. They both turn green.
Oh my goodness, man. Well, man, Mike, I can't thank you enough for coming on this podcast and just spending the evening with me talking, and I really have enjoyed myself. And I hope if you get down here to the Golden Triangle of the Beaumont, Lake Charles, Port Arthur area, I hope you come down here. You and Gino always have a place to stay at our house.
Awesome. We will have to do that.
I would love to go into the facility and see Vendome on something in there. It would just make my day. I think we have over 200 different facilities here that are either making chemicals or they're making plastics or they're making producing petroleum or refining it.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of business down here.
Quite a bit. We're
I'd
going to have to get
I'd
down
like
in
to
that
see the show.
area and start knocking on some doors.
Well, before we leave, you got any last words for listeners?
We did talk about, though, as far as a giveaway, and I would love to, if however you do it, it doesn't matter. Got a shirt, a hat, and also if anyone is interested or ever comes to Kentucky for the Bourbon Trail or anything like that, we do not give tours. We're not on a bourbon tour or anything like that. We don't do tours except for if we give them away for a charity event or anything. But I'll give a tour away for 6 or 8 people for you to give away to a listener. And if they ever make it to Kentucky, they can look me up and I'll show them around and take them through what we do on a daily basis.
You done messed up because my listeners they're probably jonesing now. Well, listeners, I knew Mike was going to do that. So, and I was like, man, I got to give a bottle of whiskey for this too. And, listeners, I always say give back more than you take, and I try to live that in life all the time. Give back more to this community, give more back to listeners, give more back to whiskey enthusiasts, and I really truly believe that. And I said I would be giving away some whiskey from my shelves, and this is probably my biggest bottle to date to give away. But I'm going to give away a bottle of Weller Full Proof from Liquor Barn.
Nice.
It's no joke. This is one of my favorite bourbons right here. People say if I was on a desert island, it'd probably be Weller Antique, but this is the bottle you're going to get with that cap, that t-shirt, and that tour. And I'm going to throw in one of my rocks glasses with that to you. But this is what you're going to have to do for me. You're going to have to post an emoji of a buffalo, because, Buffalo Trace. What else are you going to do? And because this is a big boy bottle right here, there's a big grown woman whiskey. What I'm going to need you to do is I'm going to need you to tag 8 people. Usually I say 4, but I need you to tag 8 people on Instagram or any other social media platform. Tag people for me. Tell them about the whiskey trip. Like this post, every post I put out for the week. Like it. And then share it. Share a story of it so other people can find out about it. You got to be 21. You got to reside in the United States. And then the last part of this is you got to follow the whiskey trip, and then you got to follow Vendome on Instagram or Facebook or wherever they're at. Follow them. I'm sure they got 1 million followers anyways, but follow us, help us build our social media platforms. And I think that's a great giveaway. I'll announce this giveaway on Monday at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. You know how I do it. I love to give away whiskey, and I can't think of a better partnership than do partnership with Vendome and give away a great bottle like this. You don't want to miss out on this whiskey right here. So if you're listening right now, go to my social media, and if you don't have Instagram, you don't have Facebook, you better get it, because that's the only way you're going to get this thing, this joker right here, and those tickets, a hat and a t-shirt and a glass, is to have a social media. So if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, if you're listening on Spotify or Amazon or iHeartRadio or wherever you listen to me at, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you put in for this giveaway. I'd really love to give it to somebody who will enjoy it. I think everybody that's putting in for a giveaway and they've gotten it, they've really enjoyed what I'm trying to put out there. Mike, once again, thank you for coming on the whiskey trip and taking this ride with me, my friend. I look forward to seeing you and Gina the next time we're up in Kentucky. We'll have to sit down and drink a beer together.
Please look us up, and we'll get together and have a good time.
So if listeners want to check you out on social media, is it at Vendome? Is that your guys' social media?
Yeah, I mean, Facebook, we got a Facebook page, and I think an Instagram. I should know these better. But I don't think it's too hard to find us. My cousin's going to kill me that I don't know these off the top of my head.
Well, make sure you check out their websites. Also, is vendomecopper.com. Check out their website. I'm sure they'd love that. Comment and stuff. One last note. I want to give a big shout out to Jose in Puerto Rico. Buddy had reached out to me for an issue you were having with a distillery, and hopefully I helped you out with that. But I appreciate you listening on Apple Podcasts and listening to me. It means the world to me that I got a call from Puerto Rico, even though I thought it was work calling. I really did appreciate it. Well, listeners, you know where you can find old Big Chief. You can find me on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook, and now on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button if you're watching. At the Whiskey Trip. If you listen to me, listen to Matt and Mark from the Bourbon Life. They're always putting out great content. If you like what they're doing and you like what I'm doing, then I would really appreciate if you leave us that 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Leave us those comments. Those comments, those 5-star reviews help open up doors to distilleries. It get great guests on my show, like Mike Sherman here from Vendome, a show that I've been wanting to do forever. So it makes me legitimate. It lets everybody know that I want to be the Paul Harvey of whiskey. I want to tell a story. I want to get a story told. And Mike definitely did that today here, telling us about his family's 120 years in making great whiskey. So keep listening. I got more great giveaways coming. Don't forget, if you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and you're listening to this right now, you still got time to come up to the Colony, go to the Rack House. It's a beautiful restaurant right up overlooking the lake and stuff. I'm going to have a event up there called the Honor Pour with Staves of Honor, with Pour Decisions Rick House, a group on Facebook, with the Texas Whiskey Trail, with Benton Distillery, with Iron Root Distillery, and with 1845 Distillery. And then my good buddy Emiliano from Steel Austin, he'll be there as well. So come check me out. I'm going to be hosting that. We're going to try to raise some money for Staves of Honor. They're a new veteran organization. They're trying to help veterans, first responders, law enforcement officers out, and making sure they get a good start, or once they come out of those professions, that they have a good start on a civilian career. So make sure you check out that. I'd really, really appreciate it. One last thing. I just said one last thing, but one last thing. If you're leaving comments on Apple Podcasts, copy those and fill up my reviews on Facebook. I really need those. I'm trying to get to 100 before the end of the year. I set some goals for myself, and I'm damned if I'm not going to get there. I'm going to get there. We still got a couple months left, so stick with me. This is old Big Chief, and thanks for taking this ride with me, baby.